Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you a tutorial on how to start from this first person project from scratch and turn it into a multiplayer experience with replicating character models, getting character pitch to sync up, shooting with sounds, and getting the exact location of where the gun is being held and the angle it's being held at. So starting off, we're just going to start off with that first person blueprint. Then we're going to head to the marketplace and look for this animation starter pack. It's published by Epic, and this just has a mannequin and a blueprint for some animations like running, aiming down sights, crawling, and stuff. Alright, so with that imported into our project, we can see it here in content. That gives us our mannequin. Alright, so to start off, we're just going to get 2 copies of this gun and the player start, just for some multiplayer purposes. And first thing we're going to do is get this mannequin defined, because right now the players in first person shooter are all invisible. There's no character model to them except for the hands. So we're just going to go and import a mesh, or rather create a new mesh, give it a name here, and then we're going to define the model is that mannequin that we just imported, made by Epic. Now on that drop down, you're going to want to select that blueprint right there. That'll give it all the animations it needs. Now we're just going to position it and kind of center it on the first person camera here. Doesn't totally need to match the arms, just kind of lining the head up so that it matches up with that camera. Alright, it's looking good. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then we're just going to say owner no see. We're checking that off so that you don't see your own third person model. Otherwise it would clip into the camera and get in the way. Setting it to 2 players, and we're playing it as a host and a client. Alright, so just to start off here, we should see we can walk around. It's being replicated what direction we're facing, and same for the client. We can see jumping. Alright, cool. So we can look left and right, but looking up and down is not synced up right now. Just looks like we're looking straight all the time. So to do that, it gets a little complex because the pitch that you're looking at up and down is not replicated to the server with this default project. So we're gonna need to do something here that basically defines your pitch and then multicasts it to everybody else so that everybody knows what direction you're looking. So we're going to start off by taking the mouse input, and same thing would apply if you want to do controller input too, but we'll just start off with mouse. And we're going to define a new rotator variable here, look rotator. And ultimately this is what we're going to be multicasting and setting. So we're going to make 2 events here. One's going to be the multicast event that'll set this variable. Just give it a good name there. Alright, there we go. And then we're going to make another event that runs on this server. And that's going to kick off the multicast event that we just made. That'll also take the look rotation. And finally, when the mouse moves and changes your rotation, it's going to kick off that server event. Alright, so now to get that look rotation, we're going to take our first person camera, get the world rotation, and we're going to break this up. So when we're replicating this info to other clients, we don't need to know the left and right and roll rotation of our camera. We only need to know the pitch. Everything else is being replicated. So we're going to just divide that by -3 since we're going to be using this variable 3 times to control the various, there's like 3 spine bones on a character. So we're going to be modifying all 3 spine bones. So we take that roll divided by 3. Now we're going to go and select this skeletal mesh. You got to click on that little guy running up there, and we're looking for the idle animation. Alright, here we go. Click on the branching icon up there to go into the blueprint for this animation. And we're going to the animation graph. Now we're going to add some logic in here that's actually going to rotate those 3 spine bones in the character. Going over to the event graph, we also need to add some logic here. I guess I'll do this first so that we can define a variable that can be used by that animation graph. So we're going to take that look rotation that we just defined with the multicast event, and we're going to get that. And then the animation graph doesn't have direct access to that variable, so we're just going to make our own variable in here and set it, pulling it off of the first person blueprint, first person character. Alright, that's set up. So now over in this animation graph, we can use that look rotator that we just made. So we're just going to do a transform bone, and we want spine 1 over there on rotation. We're going to add, we're going to add a rotation. And just for example here, if we add a rotation here and compile, we got a compile error here. I think we just broke the animation back on the event graph. Let's see, what's it saying? Oh, okay. I just need to recompile over here. Now it's working. We had defined a variable and hadn't compiled yet, so this thing didn't know about it. Alright, so the character's looking down now because we are at 40. Now if we do -40, he's looking up. So on that rotation, there's like a X, Y, and Z. We just want to modify the X. So we'll link all these up. This is the 3 spine bones that we're modifying here, 2 and 3. This rotator is already set to modify only the X value because we already did that in the first person character blueprint. Alright, so now let's run this and see what happens with our characters. And see, looking up and down, works for the host, works for the client, replicated across both people. Alright, cool. So we got character model, animations, replicating pitch. Now let's go in, replicate shooting. Right now, if the host shoots, it might not be replicated to the client, and vice versa. So the way Unreal 5 does this is, I don't really like it. They changed it around using The chute used to be contained on the first person blueprint in Unreal 4, and now it's on the gun blueprint, on the rifle blueprint. So I'm just going to move this back over to the first person blueprint. It makes it a lot easier to understand with synchronizing network events, because each client keeps track of their own third person character, whereas only the server keeps track of the guns that were spawned in. So we're just going to make a custom event here that'll run on the server to spawn a bullet. And when a player clicks, it'll activate this event and ask the server to spawn a bullet. And since we were copying this over from the gun blueprint, we have to change some of these out. It was asking for a camera rotation, so we'll just get our first person camera, get world rotation, and plug that into where it was going. Just overwrite those two nodes, and delete that out. Then we just gotta link up the event so it executes. Oh yeah, we're also gonna need to overwrite these other two variables that were being used. It was trying to get the gun skeletal mesh, which that doesn't exist on a first person blueprint, so we're just going to get our first person camera and get that location instead of the gun's location. And the gun blueprint also had a vector variable defined on it that was just a projectile offset. So we're going to define our own variable here, make it a vector. All right, we'll put our new one in, link it up. There we go. We can define our projectile offset. So it's coming out of our first person camera, so we'll have it move forward 50 units and down 50 units. So it's kind of going to be coming out of where the gun is being held. You can change that around to whatever you want, whatever looks good. Alright, we got a compiler error there. We'll deal with that in a sec. We just need to set bullet to replicate so that when the server asks to spawn a bullet, it's going to take that bullet that was spawned for the host and just send it to the clients so that they're seeing an exact copy of it. Here's our compiler error. It was just asking for one of the variables we had on the gun, so we'll swap that out to be a first person character variable. Alright, so now the host can shoot. And player 2 can shoot. Not getting sound replication yet, haven't set that up. And there's also an issue with pitch not being replicated for the client, but pitch is working for the host. So that's a similar deal where we had to make a custom thing for the animation to update with pitch. We'll also have to do a little custom thing with shooting to replicate pitch. So when this server event executes, it doesn't know about the client's rotations. So we just have to pass that into the event when it gets called initially. Delete all that out. And then over here is where we're going to get our rotation and pass that into the server event. Okay, looking good. Let's just make sure that works. Alright, yep, player 2 sees it. And player 1, we got replication of pitch. Perfect. Alright, last two things to fix is the sound replication and the exactly where the gun is being held on the mannequins. Let's start out with sound. This whole playing the animation montage of the recoil that you feel when you shoot, we don't need that to replicate across the server since it's just your arms, your first person arms are playing it and nobody else sees those. We'll play that locally. Alright, then over here for the sound event, we're going to need the server to multicast this sound to everybody. I'll make a new custom event. I just got to recompile so I can name this. There we go. And that is a multicast. Similar deal here where it won't know exactly where to multicast the sound to, so we just have to pass that location into the event, just like we did with the rotation earlier. Now let's test the sound, make sure that the client is able to produce sounds. Yep, looking good. Alright, so we got shooting replicated pretty well with pitch, character models, animations. Then the last issue we got is when you pick up a gun, it is coming out of your biceps, which does not look good. So same thing for player 2 or the clients. They also have the same exact issue going on here with pitch not being replicated. So we're going to go into our skeletal meshes of the actual player mannequin, and we're going to create a new attachment slot on the hand so that we can put the gun on here. We'll take the right hand, make a new slot, and call it gun socket. It is important, whatever you use, if it's all lowercase or if there's any spaces, just have a consistent naming convention for that, because you have to manually type that in later. We're just adding the gun asset here. This is basically saying if the gun was attached to this, then this is the rotation that it would take. I'm not going to spend a lot of time making it perfect. This is just kind of for testing purposes. Looks good enough. Now go into the rifle blueprint, which is where it actually attaches itself to a joint. So this is working fine for the first person instance. The issue comes up in multiplayer when you're looking at somebody else holding a gun. So I don't want to change anything about if the first person instance is trying to attach the gun to their hands. That's working fine. It's locally controlled, keep it the same. Otherwise, if it's not, it must be a multiplayer instance. So it's going to be pretty similar here. We're still targeting self. We're getting the getting our skeletal mesh, but instead of the first person arms, we're getting our third person. And then here's where your naming convention comes in. You just have to type that in exactly the same as you named it on there. Gun underscore socket, all lowercase. Alright, just looking it over and making sure everything looks right. And now I'm going to player picks up a gun, they're actually holding it in their right hand. And we didn't need to specify the replicate pitch or anything, because the right hand is affected by those spine rotations, so that just carries right over. And yeah, that about sums up this tutorial. This is my first one, so if you guys want more, or if you want a tutorial on anything in particular, let me know. I hope you liked it.